Good morning, everyone. Happy Monday. Welcome to the Opening Bell Crypto Show. Let me jump over here on X and see how we're doing. See if everyone can hear me okay over there. To the Opening Bell Crypto Show. Okay, looks like people can hear me. Let me do a little bit of let me type a little GM to get things started here in the chat. Also, welcome if you're joining me on YouTube or Rumble. But market's just getting ready to open any minute now. We have Bitcoin sitting at 68,716. Let's take a look at let's give the markets a second to open. To kind of bring you up to speed. Of course, we had a little bit of, I would say, escalation over the weekend. Especially with Israel hitting like 30 of the Iran's oil storage depots, right? Which you saw those fires, no doubt, if you were doing anything over the weekend. It was crazy, serious environmental stuff. And some of the oil was flowing down the streets, and it was just a crazy apocalyptic scene, right? And there's some reports that they kind of did that on their own. The scale of it was a little kind of caught the Trump and the U.S. off guard. But anyway, nonetheless, and there was also some escalation. A big government building, high rise, got hit in Kuwait. Some things happened. It was generally kind of flat, since really kind of flat down a little. We started to grind down, and then when futures opened last night, there was a knee-jerk reaction. Oil jumped up 25%, up above $111. Futures were like 2.5% in the negative. I got on TikTok and did a little upgrade. I thought it was a knee-jerk reaction. To be honest with you, I thought it would probably come down, and it did. And the futures dropped down to about 1.25 in oil. A few different things. The G7 got together and said, Japan, a few people said they're going to probably release some strategic reserves. And, that brought kind of calmed things down a little bit. Oil got down to around $100, right? Plus or minus a couple of dollars. So that's kind of what happened. As you can see here on Bitcoin, we got all the way down to in the 65,000s. Now we're 68,797. So we're up about 1% just in the last, few minutes. So 10 or 15 minutes. So a little bit better. We're bouncing back a little bit better than maybe was expected. So we'll take a look at where the market's actually at now. Like I say, they were all looking to open up down about a 1.25. So let's kind of see where those actually opened up. So good morning, everyone. Welcome. We made it through the weekend, and so NASDAQ down about 1%. So like I say, literally it was showing at one point down as much as 2.5%. So I would say we're back a little bit, not as bad as it could have been. The Dow and this S&P look about the same, but we'll pull them up. Look, until this war gets resolved or something happens, the Straits of Hormuz, 20% of the world's oil at risk. Until that kind of gets resolved, we're going to be dealing with this. So just kind of get used to it, unfortunately. But that is what we're dealing with. Yeah, the Dow Jones, same thing, down about 1%. I imagine the S&P's probably the same. It just is what it is. By the way, happy daylight savings time. I don't know about you guys, but kind of been kicking my butt for the last 2 days. Instead of me getting up at 4 my time, I'm getting up at 3 instead of 3:30, 2:30. Yeah, S&P, same thing. Let's look and see if we can see where oil is, because just interested to see where it actually opened. Man, there's a crappy website. I got to find a new one. There we are, 99.17. So still up 10%, but it was up, like I say, 25%. Went from, that's kind of where we're at. So plus or minus. That is what it is. Go back to, yeah, so that's what it is. Let's take a look over at crypto, what we really care about. Yeah, so Bitcoin doing okay, 68,935. Nice. We're up almost 1.5% and 2.8% for the day. So that's a nice little bump, to be honest with you. So got really beat down yesterday, and now we're coming back a little bit. I like that. Ethereum back over 2,000. Very nice. 4.5% for the day, almost 1% for the hour. Let's look at XRP, man. A lot of people love their XRP. I like XRP, don't love it. Don't own a bunch of it. But I made a lot early on with it. So XRP at 136.8. Let's call it 137, up 1.6, up 1%. So a little more up and down than Bitcoin is and stuff. That's kind of been how it is. Solana, 85.25. So, yeah, a little bit of a jump. You see, we got all the way down close to $80. So, yeah, a good Monday morning, I would say, all in all. Can't complain. Let's look at some of the news driving it once again. China, of course, very much reliant on oil, and they're big partners with Iran. They're urging all sides to return to dialogue, not surprisingly. This was an interesting article right here saying CIA has been calling water the Middle East strategic commodity since 1980. 100 million Gulf residents depend on 450 desalination plants. Most have zero alternative. So if you look at this weekend, actually yesterday morning, early yesterday morning, and I think it came from some Israeli newspapers, widely reported that UAE had struck one of Iran's desalination plants, which was interesting because the UAE seems like I can see Jordan, Saudi Arabia, one of these other countries. UAE, man, they seem like they're the most chill. So I was surprised when I saw it, and then it came out as not true. But this article, if you look at it, Kuwait is 90% dependent on water. Qatar, 100% on these desalination plants. UAE, 42%. It's higher in cities. Saudi Arabia, 70%. One strike on Jabal evacuates millions from Riyadh. One strike on Jabal's Jebel Ali, 43 units, shuts down the city. Oil you can replace, water infrastructure you can't rebuild fast enough to prevent humanitarian catastrophe. So interesting thing to think about as you look at this. So water plants are super important. When you're in a desert, that makes sense. And it gets so crazy hot there in the summer. Saudi Aramco, you saw that stock blow up into last week. They are reducing their production. Two of its oil fields amid the Straits of Hormuz closure, because why make oil if you're just having to stockpile it, right? So they're backing off there. Very few traffic, near as I've heard, are going through the Straits of Hormuz, unless there's been some breaking news in the last 15 minutes. But still, this is what's dragging us down, though. This is it, They reported originally it was the U.S., but look at this, man. We saw these pictures all weekend, and then just complete pollution, environmental catastrophe. And this was just one of those 30 oil depots. So, but it turns out it was Israel, and there's a little bit of, maybe they went a little hard at it. But anyway, definitely crazy. caused a little bit of stir over the wind. This is been widely reported that this is their first kind of significant disagreement since the war started, but we'll see what happens with that. But yeah, definitely drop back down to 8. You can see if you've been listening to my Bitcoin morning show on X for the last 4 years, you know that one of my favorite macro indicators is fear and greed, and I'm definitely, this gets into my buy zone when fear and greed's down like this. Once again, we may have seen the bottom, or maybe not. We could go lower. We nobody knows, right? The reality is nobody knows. All I can say is definitively we may have bottomed out already. It might have, we went down, touched around 63 times. That may have been the bottom, maybe not. But I'll tell you this, we're a lot closer to bottom than we are at top. So that's fear and greed. I mean, this is historic lows. And so, but it's not surprising, we got major geopolitical tension going on here. Supposedly they did officially name the new leader, Ayatollah's son, Mojtaba, whatever the hell his name is, Khomeini. What's interesting is this guy holds hundreds of millions of dollars in real estate throughout the world. They say 70 to 100 million just in London alone. So it's crazy. The Hezbollah leaders, the actual top leaders, they live in Monaco. They're living the good life, Meanwhile, their people are out there starving, blowing stuff up, whatever, taking their orders, living in holes, and they're living like, billionaires. And here, same, our people in Iran aren't doing great. And here, this guy's got hundreds of millions of dollars worth of properties. So not surprising, very similar, communists, socialists, dictators, they all do this, right? They act like it's the revolutionary and it's really just for them to enrich themselves. And I guarantee this regime at all levels, they're rich, and that's why they're trying to hold on to what they can. We'll see how long he lasts. Trump said they're not going to last long if he's not where he is. He may not even be in Iran. I don't know. Be smarter if he's somewhere else. Yeah, this is not the. I was looking for an article that crude oil jumped 25%. Yeah, here it is. It's just let me get rid of that. So yeah, this was last night. Global prices surged 113. Brent crude jumped 22%, highest price since June. So this was a historic jump, right? Like I say, bit of a knee-jerk reaction, and luckily it had time to solve down. And so far, so good. And the markets were down, but not as bad as what it looked like it was going to be. We'll check back here in a minute. And then, like I say, G7 considering releasing 300 to 400 million barrels of oil from emergency services. That could, I don't know what that could sustain. Could give us bias a month or so. I don't know exactly, but anyway, that helped kind of tamp down the panic. And we see it drop back below 100. We just checked, it was 98, then it jumped to 103. That's kind of what I've been seeing since the talk of the G7 stuff happening. And this is interesting. No one's really talking about it, The doomsday plane, there's this Boeing E-64 Mercury. It's basically a doomsday plane. It's a flying command center that can coordinate nuclear strikes, communicates with submerged nuclear subs, all that stuff. Basically, in the case of a nuclear war, the doomsday plane goes and is a mobile flying command center. And it's interesting that that's in the Middle East right now. It was last time I reported on a couple months ago, it was seen taken off from LAX, which is rarely seen. So that's interesting. I heard that Russia has a doomsday plane. It's also in the Middle East. So crazy stuff. I don't know all that much about it, but it doesn't sound great. Hearing that already, we're getting ready Bitcoin, and that will leave just 1 million to mine in the next 100 so years. Keep in mind, there's only ever going to be 21 million, 20 million mined as of now or here in the next hour or so, and 2.5 to 5 million are missing, depending on who you believe. So we will see at some point, we will see a supply shock. Some of the biggest news of the day: NASDAQ partners with Kraken to push tokenized stock trading. So we see that banks are starting to trade crypto. Crypto companies are becoming banks, and there's this merge in between them. And of course, you know, I think it won't be long before everything's 24/7, just like crypto. I don't think we'll have any more market opening and closing. I think the markets will all be 24 hours. This is, of course, a centralized approach to that, and we've already seen tokenization and whatnot on the blockchain, decentralized trading on mostly Solana. This is interesting. Latin America's crypto transaction volume surged 60% to $730 billion, with monthly activity growing 3 times faster than the US. So that's interesting. Latin America is going faster. I want you guys to realize you're still early. It's still a great time to be buying Bitcoin, but Latin America is jumping on it faster than we are here in the United States. Coinbase launched regulated 26 countries, basically be able to do some leverage trading and stuff. Probably smaller, probably not 100x leverage, probably like 3 to 5 leverage, but you can short and buy futures and stuff. So I think that's big news. So we move on. We march on this. This was crazy, right? PBD, your Bet David or whatever his name is. Crazy, saying Bitcoin is going to die. I don't mess with it. I don't touch it. Bitcoin is still based or is decreasing in value because of the uncertainty of war. Nobody wants their money in something that can be wiped out. You can push a button and stop it. Unbelievable. I almost fell off my chair. Unbelievable, stupid view, right? Like the most uneducated, craziest view I've ever seen. So it just shows you how people absolutely going to watch this. Oh, yeah. And nothing what he said is right. We have nothing to do with fiat. We're not tied to it at all. We're decentralized. No one can push a button. Everything that's good about Bitcoin, he doesn't get it, right? And so just absolute. This is like the guy saying, oh, the internet's going to go the way of the fax machine back in the day. Absolutely doesn't have anything, at all what he's talking about. Just shockingly crazy, man. Just shockingly ill-informed. And I guess that means more for those of us that are educated and watch the Opening Bell Crypto show here. This guy does not know one thing he's talking about. Everything he said is false, and just shows you we're still early, I guess. Couldn't freaking believe it. Could not believe it when I saw that. Germany finally making some good choice. They're now going to have zero capital gains on Bitcoin if you hold it over a year. So Germany, who famously dumped us below 50,000, sold all their Bitcoin at like around 50,000, all the Bitcoin they were holding that they'd seized. Now at least they made a good, and EU and these Euros are making dumb decisions. You got Netherlands talking a wealth tax. We saw what happened in California. Sergey Brin, the latest guy took his 237 billion. Top 5 richest guy in the world, founder of Google, bought a $51 million beachfront house in Miami. Get away from that wealth tax. Now, I talked about this last week. Strategy, they've got their preferred stock where you get they up their dividend to 11.5%. So literally, they were able to raise $377 million yesterday, just on that one product, right? People, it was a big search thing, and we talked about it. We've been talking about it ever since it came out and explaining it on the GM Bitcoin Morning Show. We've talked about it a lot. Our guy co-host Paige has bought some for his mother's portfolio, so she can get that fixed income. And back in the fall, when there's a lot of FUD and misinformation around it, they raised $3 billion and set aside, say, okay, look, now we've got enough to pay these dividends for 2.5, 3 years. So kind of put that to short, but really got popular for some reason over the last week. And then crazily, and then we saw over the weekend, Michael Saylor tweeting like, let's start the next century, when he did his little orange dots that he did, right? Knowing he was going to buy, but man, did he come out swinging. Holy crap. He came out and bought 17,990 Bitcoin. Check this out. $1.28 billion. I mean, about a month and a half ago, he bought 2.2 billion or 2.13 billion or some crap like that. And man, and then, he always buys big buys, but man, in one swoop, he buys the dip of $1.28 billion. This guy is like, hold my beer. Bitcoin's going away. I mean, such a contrast between Terrence Howard, an actor who is absolutely clueless, and Michael Saylor, one of the smartest people on the planet, buying just a crazy amount. So, wow. He paid $70,946 for it. And now they hold 738,731 Bitcoin. And by the way, he's still like $7 billion in unrealized losses, 75,862. Now, this guy started buying around 10 or sub 10,000. I want to say it was right around 10,000. Okay, so he's been buying for a long time, but he continues to buy, and he says he'll always be buying. But man, just shout out to Michael Saylor. Huge buy, man. Florida also the first state to propose a law to eliminate capital gains. Florida, one of the few states that's already Bitcoin for their strategic reserve. And this Saylor just said that Bitcoin is going to $200 trillion. It's going to be 10x bigger than gold. And, that puts Bitcoin close to 15, 18, $20 million a coin. And he said he's publicly called for $13 million. Last night, Arthur Hayes and said, maybe I talked about it Friday. He came out and said his prediction is within 3 years, by the end of 2020, it will be a $3.4 million Bitcoin. I don't think I talked about it Friday. I think that was Saturday. But I was thinking, right now we can buy a tenth of a Bitcoin for what? $6,800. That same tenth of a Bitcoin, if Arthur Hayes is right, would be worth $340,000. So crazy stuff, man. Crazy stuff. Last but not least, Guy Vivek, the last 5 times Bitcoin RSI hit this low, Bitcoin went up 100%, 140K incoming. And that's true on some of the bigger time frames. The relative strength index, which shows overbought or oversold, is so oversold. Last 5 times. History doesn't repeat, but it often rhymes. So with that, let's take a look at how we're doing here. We'll kind of wrap the show up, and I will be back here tomorrow morning for the Opening Bell Crypto Show. all in all, I'm feeling pretty good, unless something's happened in the last 15 minutes while I've been talking. We'll see where we're at here. But, this, like I say, the war is never good. We're always going to, yeah, it looks like it's got a little worse. Let's refresh that. What? 1.2, 1.27. So, yeah, we're getting a little bit worse. The Dow's 1.49. Just for fun, let's go back and let's take a look at oil. I'm suspecting oil's bounced up a little bit. Yep. No, it's dropped a little actually. $99. So take a look. We'll wrap this up by looking at Bic. Solana still good, going up a little bit, looking solid. And Bitcoin 68,875. So up 1.1%. I'll take it considering we got all the way down to 65. So we're up over $3,000 from our low of yesterday. So thank you for joining me. I'll take it. I don't mind. I don't mind this. Of course, we're still in a war. We'll still see what happens. We're still in one of the worst oil crises of our lifetime. We'll see how it pans out. But thanks everyone for joining me. Feel free to join me over on the Opening Bell Crypto, my Bitcoin space that I've had going for 4 years now. It's a space on X. Appreciate everyone joining me live on X and also here on YouTube, Rumble, or if you listen to it, appreciate it. And we'll see what happens later today. Hopefully we kind of maintain this trajectory, and I will see everyone tomorrow morning at the same time. Everyone have a good Monday